You haven't done that with any of the other parts that about jumped me out of my socks.
All right, guys, welcome back. We are in part 4, the fourth, the last, the finale, the finite,
The end
of this week's YAWA. So we're going to jump right into it. But guys, if this is the first time to the channel, definitely we appreciate you coming and listening and watching and hitting the subscribe button. So let's answer some questions.
We're going to try and get through quite a few this part, so hold on to your seats. From Manda Christiane on Instagram, how long is reasonable to expect an 8-week-old puppy to stay in a crate at night until you take them out for a potty break?
This is going to be really, really, really puppy dependent and really, really, really day-to-day and situationally dependent. But most of the time, I'm going to say 6 to 8 hours is pretty realistic goal if you've done the things right leading up to bedtime.
And a couple of the things that Ethan mentions doing right leading up to bedtime is, 1, make sure your puppy's gotten enough exercise and playtime and training time throughout the day that they are ready for bed. If all they've done is hang out in a crate all day and maybe lounge around and play a little bit of chew toy in the afternoon and then go back in their crate, they are not going to be ready for bed. So make sure they're worn out enough to be ready for bed. 2, make sure they didn't eat and drink something right before bedtime.
Right before bed.
Definitely, that's going to set you up for failure in the sense that your puppy's going to go, I now need to go potty right after going to bed. And then I would say, what would be another thing to set yourself up for success?
Meals, water, exercise.
Okay. And then just be prepared that your puppy may not like being in their crate for the first few nights, and be patient with that.
Yes, be patient with that and don't give in. But you can try. We talked about this in, I think, the first part.
1.
Yeah, part 1. So get the full skinny there, but we talked about some different options on where to put the crate in relation to where you're at and how that can be beneficial.
Some other tips and tricks. So from K Wheatzer0 on Instagram, I love your page and watching the videos.
Thank you.
Thanks. What do you guys use for tick and flea protection, pour on pills, the collars, or other? Thank you for all your help.
Bravecto,
which is a 3-month oral pill chew. It is dependent on...
They do have a topical.
No.
It's nasty.
We don't like that one. But we do like the oral pill, 3 months, and it is weight dependent, but it's a pretty wide range of weight, so you get pretty good coverage. I think 44
the ones we get, 44 to
88 pounds is usually what we are using on our dogs. So
covers pretty much every dog we own.
So next question from Kiminim. Kiminim on Instagram. How do you deal with the shedding? Are there any tricks or tips to decrease the amount of shedding or at least make it more manageable?
Wait. You're saying your dog shed? If you zoom in real close, you can see the dog hair all over. So yes, we understand shedding is a thing.
And definitely depending on the breed, because you didn't mention what breed you have of dog, the shedding can definitely be more. But definitely also depending on how much shedding is going on, you can think about things as like regular baths. Don't overbathe though, because that can also dry out their skin and create dry skin and dandruff and things like that. As well as depending on what you're feeding your dog, proper nutrition can also decrease the amount of shedding. But all dogs are going to shed at least a little bit. So unless there's like a hairless dog.
Yeah, and this is like a little tidbit. We've been playing around for years with some different nutritional supplement type of things, additives to our general nutrition to kind of help with some of those things. And we've come across a few things that have really helped. And there is a good potential that we will actually be moving toward releasing that stuff before the end of the year. So we will keep you posted on that. But
stay tuned.
There is hope. There's hope. Other than that, you just clean, brush, and bathe.
Next question from Sorensen Cami on Instagram.
Sorensen.
Breeding questions.
Woo, 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 woo.
What age for you start breeding? What age do? I think it meant to be do. What age do you start breeding your females? How often do you breed them? And when do you retire them from the breeding program?
6 months, 6 months, 6 months. Answers all of those questions.
No, it does not. So, what age do you start breeding your females? Typically after their second heat cycle at minimum, which can be anywhere from 18 months typically to 2 years. And
Who
that's
did we have that cycled early?
Vino.
Vino.
And so we waited for her third heat cycle before
Yes.
we ended up breeding her, just because she cycled at 6 months, which was really young.
Mhm.
And we weren't going to be breeding her at just a year old. So typically we wait until their second heat cycle between 18 months, 24 months. We also have done pen hip testing at that point so that
Mhm.
we know that their hips are good and are going to be part of our breeding program. Then how often do our breed our females? That depends on what we're doing with the females, where they're at in testing. Sometimes once a year, sometimes twice a year. And how often, or that was how often, haha. And then when do we retire our females from our program? I would say the oldest dog that we've bred has been 8. That was Snap.
Mhm.
And we retire the dogs, though, based on their health, which involves, are they having complications with their pregnancy? Are they having any complications like mastitis during the whelping process? And are they having decreased litter size is usually typically something that's an indication that maybe they don't need to be bred anymore. And the reason that we also consider breeding twice a year, which people are like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought you're only supposed to breed once a year, if that.
Every time a dog goes through a cycle, their body believes that they are pregnant, period. So it's not really beneficial. And it's just as hard on their body to not go through it as it is to go. Not exactly the same. I mean, the actual process of the puppies nursing and things like that is more than if they aren't there. But you can end up with cysts and other complications for skipping the cycle.
And
So
pyometra can happen as well.
can. But the biggest things that you're going to be looking at is it's healthier for them to be bred or spayed in the grand scheme of things. So if you're planning on doing a few litters, those being closer together and then the spaying happen, or if you're not planning at all, have that 1 to 2 cycles so that the dog reaches maturity and then spay them then.
So, but
We had a really funny comment on YouTube. We don't really get into a whole lot of these, but somebody commented on our spay and neuter conversation that we had with Dr. Peter. If you haven't seen that podcast, it was one that I did with Peter, Dr. Armstrong a little while back, and it's got a big spay or neuter question mark. And somebody, one of the things that we talk about is neutering to prevent like testicular cancer or spaying to prevent ovarian or uterine cancers. I think primarily ovarian, but the comment was kind of funny. It said, well, why don't you just remove their brains to prevent brain cancer?
what?
Yeah.
I did not see that comment.
Yeah. So, long story short, with the old spaying and neutering thing, it does help prevent some things. And if we have an option for that, obviously removing brains is not an option. But those are some benefits to that. But asking about breeding, see how many litters you're kind of hoping, thinking, planning, get them done while the dog is younger and healthier, just like women. Younger and healthier they are, the better off and safer and healthier it is for everybody. So,
And just to keep in mind that there's always a risk when breeding dogs.
Always.
So if you're considering breeding your dog, you have to understand that there is a risk and there's always a chance that you could lose the female, lose the entire litter.
goodness, we just heard about the horror story.
Yeah, we actually just got reached out to. Someone just reached out to us that had a tragic situation that they had lost an entire litter except for one puppy during an emergency C-section, and then actually lost their mother, the mother of the litter, to complications on the table. So
Horrible,
they have
horrible,
a singleton puppy And they reached out to us for options as far as like socialization goes and potentially surrogate situation. And I think we got them some answers and they've got things worked out. But terrible,
Knock on
tragic
wood.
situation.
We have never had anything that tragic, but there's always a chance something bad could happen. So we're doing it for the grandkids is probably not the best reason.
No. So, kind of getting into another question that segues from that, from Pantana Kennels, what makes someone an ethical breeder in our opinion?
Interesting question. What makes someone an ethical breeder? I think that if they are trying to better the breed, which is a subjective question or subjective thought process, but I think it's a good idea for people to be true to what the standard is. And if they don't like the standard, pick the breed that fits what they're looking for, which is something we preach all the time. But stay true to that. Stand behind what you're doing, which involves genetic health testing. And
if you're not able to truly stand behind your puppies from your program, then you probably shouldn't be breeding, because there is a huge financial commitment that goes along with standing behind those puppies. If one of the puppies runs into an issue that you need to stand behind as a breeder and you have to buy that puppy back, you shouldn't be
or
doing a GoFundMe so that you can buy this puppy back.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things that we're trying to better the breed. We're trying to produce quality dogs that
go to good family hunting homes, so knowing where your puppies are going.
That's exactly. It's important for us to know where they're at, including if something doesn't work out. And it's nobody's perfect, no dog's perfect, no situation's perfect. Things happen. We want the first opportunity to buy that dog back so that we can then again know where they're going and rehome them and put them in the right situation.
So they don't wind up in a shelter or something somewhere.
So if you've got somebody that truly has a lot of these things in mind or in goals, their goals as breeders, I think you're headed right down the direction of ethical breeders. I think when you run into situations where there's more emphasis put on how many can we make, not how good can we make them, that you've fallen off the ethical bandwagon. So
good question, though.
It's a good question. Yeah.
It's a tough question, though, and it raises even more tough questions when you really think about it.
Do we have a moment for Ethan's brutally honest thoughts?
Yep.
Yeah.
We didn't have a segment in any of the previous 3 YAWAs, so let's take a moment.
Well, it's just this one episode this week. Ethan has one
brutally honest comment.
We need a jingle. Hey, producer, get on the Ethan's brutally honest comments jingle. Thank you. If you are breeding, I'm going to say this because it's going to upset some people. Here we go. In my opinion,
which that was what they were asking about, our opinion.
If you have multiple breeds listed, you are probably approaching the category of the unethical breeder. Now, this is not a 100%. I'm going to throw that little caveat in there, but it takes a lot to do one breed and do it right.
And to do justice to that breed.
Attempt to do justice to the breed and grow it and be moving in the right direction. And if you spread that, improving that breed. I mean, all of the time, effort, energy, and resources, research that I put into pedigrees and dogs and genetics and all of the things that go into what create what we have.
And testing and training and time to get to those tests.
Thinking about doing that with multiple breeds it sounds basically impossible. Now, if you get to a third breed on that kennel page, it's like, throw it away.
And the one little caveat that I'll add to your, exception to every rule is if you're breeding 2 pointing breeds or you're breeding 2 retrieving breeds, that makes it a little bit easier because they're similar. As well as if you're testing and titling, typically you can run both breeds at the same test. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will. But if you're trying to breed pointing breeds and retrieving breeds, you're going in 2 different directions if you're truly trying to test them to the utmost ability that they can do.
Yeah, I still struggle with it. So I stick with one, do it right.
Last question of part 4. Yawa,
Wait,
last
are we on part
question.
4?
Yes, we had this conversation in part 3. So, last question of part 4. Last question of the week is from Gator_boy_hunt. Gator Boy Hunt from Instagram. I want to send my 6.5 month GSP to gundog school. What
Cool.
questions should I ask the trainers, and how should I prep my dog before he goes? This is a really good question.
So everybody's program is going to be a little bit different as far as that goes. I think that some of the important things to ask are going to be what level of experience did they have with the specific dog and goals that you have, because there are retrieving breed trainers out there. There are pointing breed trainers out there that kind of have that specialized. Now, a dog is a dog is a dog, and I can teach obedience and things like that. But if you come to me with a lab and say, I want a master hunter title, I'm going to say, Bubba, I am not the dude for you.
Same even if you come to us and say, I want a field trial champion.
I've got a pointer that I want to be an all age dog. I don't have horses. I've never done that before. So
I'm going to say, find a different trainer. And having a trainer that can actually be open and honest with you about what they are confident in doing and what they aren't confident in doing is really
like
important.
Like a concrete guy. That's
We're not getting into the concrete for the kennel again.
Okay. So the next would be, if you have the opportunity, go check out the facilities. Make sure you feel comfortable. Some places are nicer than others, and it's important that you feel comfortable with where your dog is staying.
Yes, we've all probably heard horror stories of dogs getting dropped off at training and then getting lost at that trainer's, or dying at the trainer's, or just coming back from training in poor physical condition where they're skin and bones, or aren't even trained. So being comfortable with the trainer and feeling like you have open lines of communication and that you can reach out to them if you have questions about how training is going, and that they are going to get back to you in a reasonable amount of time to update you on your dog, so that you're not just waiting until the end of your 3 months of training to go pick up your dog and see what has happened in that 3 months.
I think that's a big portion of it.
Yeah. And finding a trainer that Ethan mentioned has experience in what your goals are. And this is the hard part a lot of times for people, is when they don't know what their training goals are. And that is completely understandable. Yeah. When we go through our training dog checklist, when we're checking dogs in for training, and I say, so tell me what you want your dog to learn while they're in training. And the people go, well, I want them to be obedient and stop pulling on lead. That tells me right away that obedience typically is one of the number one things that people, especially the wives or the girlfriends in the situation, because they want a dog that can be able to settle down in the house and listen, and they can go for walks without their arm getting jerked out of their socket, is really important to almost everyone that walks through our door.
Sure.
Then they go, well, I don't know, but I want to upland hunt with my dog. And then I start having a conversation and say, okay, well, how does your dog retrieve naturally? How important is retrieving for you? Have you ever had a water introduction? Do you want your dog to be able to retrieve out of water, go swimming? Then I start saying, well, do you ever plan on hunting with another dog? How important is brace work? And I kind of guide that conversation to help pull the information that I need out of our client to find out what their goals truly are, so that I can give them realistic expectations for the length of the stay that they're going to need their dog to be here for, as well as what their dog is truly going to be capable of in that amount of time. So even if you don't know your goals, if you can find a trainer that can help you understand how to express your goals, that would be really important too.
That's an awesome question.
It is an awesome question, and that's a great one to end on, because I'm going to say it. I'm out of my gin and tonic, and we're out of time.
Thanks, guys, for watching. I'm the guy with the pink gun.
And I'm Kat, the dog trainer.
And we will see you
next week.
Yeah, every week.
We'll be here next week.
Peace.